Hello, everybody, and welcome to A Day in the Life. My name is Rajiv, and I'm your co-host, and I'm here today joined by my co-host, Priya. Priya, how's it going?
It's going pretty well. Today's a great day because we're talking to Juhi, who is a PhD researcher working in the field of quantum control at the Research Center Jülich in Germany. And she's been working closely with experimentalists from many groups to make neutral atom computing better. So, thank you so much, Juhi, for doing this with us. How are you today?
Yes, thanks. I'm good, and thank you so much for inviting me. It's really a nice pleasure to come here for the second time and talk to you guys.
Mhm.
Awesome. So, yeah, as you mentioned, we were here before for the coffee o'clock session, actually our
Yeah.
most popular coffee o'clock session on YouTube. So I would highly recommend to go check it out. But I'll bring that up at the end as well. So let's get into it. So right now, in your PhD career, where are you at? Like, are you sitting in the lab doing research? Are you writing, or are you on conference tours? Like, what are you up to these days?
So right now I'm in this very strange superposition of a PhD and postdoc, I would say,
Okay.
because I'm supposed to also finish my papers and get my PhD, but at the same time, there was a very interesting project which I really cannot include in my PhD. So I decided to just continue as a postdoc in the same group for some time till I work on that project. So it's like a weird superposition. But essentially, I'm in like the final few months of finishing my PhD.
Wow. Well, that's a stressful time, so I sympathize, but and really happy you took the time off to come chat with us today.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, that's really cool. But I wonder, Juhi, um, did you know, or when did you know what to choose between theory and experiment? Can you tell us a little bit more about the work you do and how you chose to get to where you are today?
So that took some effort because I did my bachelor's and master's in India, and some of us maybe know, and maybe we don't know. Like it's still a bit difficult to understand, especially the experimental side of quantum computing if you are doing a
Mhm.
master's in India, because there's like very lesser number of labs. You don't have so much of this experimental experience in every university or institute. So it took some time to go to also going to different institutes and contacting the professors there to understand what is what, and
Mhm.
then deciding. So initially, I also applied to some of the experimental positions, but
Mhm.
then I was always like more inclined towards, whenever I had these interviews, always more inclined towards these theory projects. So
Mhm.
that was like, okay, I want to go there. And it became, since my field is not really a pure theoretical field, as I say to everyone, it's always close with experiments. So I got like best and worst of both worlds. So it
Mhm.
worked for me in that sense.
So essentially, it's just exposing yourself and trial and
Yeah,
error in a
yeah,
bunch of projects.
yeah. I think you have to do that quite some. You have to spend some time before deciding because it's like a lot of fields there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What do you think, Rajiv?
Yeah, I wanted to actually ask and bounce off that on your thoughts because you mentioned a little bit that there may be some experiments lacking. Can you talk a little bit more about that and like how
Mhm.
you see India in the field of experimental quantum science and what you think, could be done better or just your opinions on that?
So I would say it's improving by really good like margins because of the new fundings from the government and this new labs that are getting established, but it's still limited in the sense of the platforms. So
Mm-hmm.
because India, I would say, compared to the Western countries, started a bit late. So now they have some labs which are in superconducting qubits,
Mm-hmm.
but I still don't know if there is a well established lab, for example, for atoms. So there is one in NMR, but NMR is also really old now. So, and then, but it's always a good field to do research. But if you want to know about atoms, then it's a bit more problematic. And also for superconducting qubits, there are labs, but it's always like in some really prestigious institute. And if you're coming from a state university like myself, it becomes highly difficult to get like an even an internship in
Mm-hmm.
universities or in different institute. So for example, for me, I was in Pune University for my master's, but then I went to ISER Pune to contact some professors there to see their labs to understand what is going on. So it's like it's going well. I think it's going in the right direction.
And this is you went in
Yeah,
conflict and
it
non
was
violence.
during my master. So I did my thesis outside my university.
Got it.
Okay, okay. Okay, and you would recommend that students doing their master or even their bachelor reach out
Yes,
to.
I would really, really recommend it because if I mean, it could be difficult. I can understand, considering your courses. There are many university where they don't give a full semester for the thesis, unlike here. So it could be maybe difficult to do a extensive research-oriented thesis, but at least as a side project, I would always recommend to explore
Mm-hmm.
on the theory and experimental sides.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So I have a question on when you work, right? So you're, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're principally a theorist, is that right? In your
Yeah.
current work. So in your when you work and you have like, let's say you have some work that you're working on specifically, you have the calculations to run, I mean, code to write up, things like that, versus like, okay, I should keep up with the literature and the general knowledge and what's on archive and things like that. How do you balance that out? And what do you think is a good balance if you can achieve that?
Um, I mean, I try to set some plans, but it's not always like goes according to the plan. But in my group, we have like this journal clubs thing. So
Mm.
because our group is really broad, also in terms of different fields, so that helps me in gaining knowledge also outside my own specific research. So usually we have at least like 2 talks per week. So that's already quite good. And if I want to keep update with literature, then we usually do like we assign a small group of people and give them 5 papers, distribute, and then we set a date. Okay, let's do a small presentation at this moment, because I feel like if you just individually explore without any support from others, you gain lesser knowledge and also you become a bit lazy.
Okay, that's interesting because well, now I've been disabused of the notion that a scientist, the image in a lot of people's heads is that scientist is somebody that works all by themselves, crazy hours in the lab, and collaboration is not the most obvious thing if you're not in the field. It doesn't occur to you that it's learning itself is very collaborative, but I'm glad you brought that up, that even the background knowledge that you gain, you do because of your peers in your group.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really, really important, because if I start reading a paper, which maybe I understand 30% if I read by myself, but there are other people who know already more about those things, then it saves me times and it also gives me easier knowledge rather than just going on to the 10 different other papers to understand like one paragraph there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in my experience too, and I don't know, maybe the social scientists will disagree, but it's funny because the social scientists tend to be more like individual in their work. I guess from my experience talking to people, they write like a book chapter or their thesis is just like them going and looking up the archives. And of course they have to collaborate as well and do interviews and things like that. But ultimately when they sit and they write their piece, it tends to be by themselves. Whereas typically in the sciences, we tend to like even the writing, right? We collaborate with people, the calculations we do it together, and of course the experiments. Typically, it's more than one person. So I think that's kind of an interesting take, Priya, that you have, and it's true that like you have to work hard to kind of dispel that image.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And just to ask you a little bit more about what Rajiv asked about balancing your time between going into the depth of your work versus keeping up with everything that's going on in the field. Is there something you enjoy more?
Um, well, I mean, for me, I really enjoy whenever I have to talk to the experimentalists, because my field, because whatever I do with the experimentalists, so it's always good to for me, because I travel to the experimental location, whichever, like usually it's Berlin or Munich, so once every 2 months, and I stay there. Then I spend the 2 days in the lab and I understand whatever is going on wrong in their lasers. So that's usually the very fun part of me, because most of the time I'm in front of my laptop, so that's like the 2 days which gives me a really different experience.
Mm-hmm.
That's unique, I think. That theorists, I mean, I know theorists like to work with experimentalists, but this is really you travel to the lab and I guess you sit next to them and you and
Yeah,
really
yeah.
look at what they
Yeah,
do.
that's quite common in our field and also in like the group that I'm working in.
Oh, wow.
Otherwise, it takes really long to conversation for the conversation over emails or even via online meetings. It's just more effective if you go there and work with them.
But I have to ask, does it get frustrating ever when speaking to experimentalists? Like, do you feel like
Sure,
connect?
sure. Many more than you can expect. Many. Sometimes I think I just close my laptop and it's like, okay, no, I cannot do it anymore. But then
Mhm.
because it's like even like these smaller things that you would expect, okay, this is obvious, but it's not, because the experimentalists, they speak a completely different language. Even their units are completely different from what we are used to. So I mean, sometimes it takes just 3 meetings to discuss this basics. So what file format do you want actually?
Oh my.
So
Okay.
actually, back to my grad, with a really quick tangent, my senior grad student was telling me a story when he was in the lab that there was a professor, and we could talk about who he was later, but he came into the lab. He was a theorist, and my senior grad student presented to him what was happening, and at the end he's like, "Oh, this is nice, but where's the Hamiltonian?" And so then after that, there was like, just for fun, they took a box, they wrote the Hamiltonian, and they put it on the table. So next time somebody asked a question, they're like, "It's there."
Uh,
Yeah, it's very common, I guess.
mhm. Yeah. So I have to ask, with you traveling to Berlin and Munich and the lab and your own theory, can you tell us about what you consider your most exciting project?
So I mean, I some of the projects are very similar, but I think still it's like in 3 years in my PhD, I think the most exciting project for me would be the one like the my first project, because it was also very challenging for me, and it's the one which is on the Q&A talk there. So because it was something which was a problem that the experimentalists never even noticed, like, or they didn't put so much attention to that. And then we saw, okay, this is a big problem for us. So it was like not solving just a problem, but we also came up with that problem, that like this problem which you never thought it's there, so you have to think about it. So just motivating the experimentalists, like maybe it's important for you. It was also like people's work, then science, then writing. So I think it was like one of the most challenging, exciting project for me.
Mhm.
That's super interesting. And so, outside of like the technical part of the project, or even of your whole PhD,
Mhm.
what do you enjoy the most, or what excites you the most about?
So I think the most exciting thing, I don't know if it's my group or in general, as I told you, it's really broad. So whenever the most exciting part is whenever there is someone talking about something, it's like, oh my God, there is also something new happening that I never knew. So it's like a never-ending pool of knowledge for me here. Because usually we are so stuck in our own work, we never notice what's happening out there. So whenever I see a new talk from someone else, it's like maybe I don't even understand half of it, but it's just this idea. Okay, there is also this interesting stuff which maybe I can later use it, and it just excites me so much because so much going on in quantum at this moment.
That's super interesting. You've mentioned your group now and also a couple of times before. Can you talk a little bit about your group dynamics? Like, how does it work in the lab? How many people are you, and how often do you like sit together or hang out?
So it's quite a big group by now. So when I started, it was COVID, so everything was closed. No one was really meeting.
Oh,
But now it's a really big group, and we mostly work like in this hierarchical subgroups. And then it's around 40 people in the group. So and even if there are 20 people in the office, we go to lunch together, then we hang out for coffee. So there is like good social dynamics in the group. And also, since there are many people doing different things, there is also this academic strong structure that if you need a help, if you're working, if you never knew what machine learning is, you can just go to someone and he or she will tell you.
And you
That's
talked a little
good.
bit, sorry, just
N-
one more question. I'm pretty
Go
curious.
on, go on. Yeah.
What so you started your PhD during COVID, is that right? Or
Yeah,
so
2021 January.
wow, what was that like? Like, starting a PhD during a time when everybody's locked down. I mean, January 2021, I guess we're starting to get the vaccines and stuff, but like still, I mean, I think it's like still quite intense, right? So how did that
Yeah.
feel like joining a group and then being like, well, I gotta work from home and see people on Zoom all the time?
I mean, I think it was very difficult for first few months, like around 6 months. I mean, my supervisors are still quite proud of me in a sense, like, oh, you managed nice. Because I also came back directly from India for the first time in Germany, and there was like a bit of a cultural shock. And then there was on top of it COVID. So I met my own supervisor in person after 8 months. Like I started in January and I met him in August in a different conference.
Oh wow.
He was like, hey, I know you. But in the end, it turned out good. So it was also, that's why I told you that project is really close to my heart, because I was feeling really less motivated in those COVID time, and I managed to get it done.
That's huge. That's huge. Was there something like what motivated you? If you had to put your finger on something.
So I think the biggest motivation for me was the field itself, I would say. I mean, i I didn't knew like a lot about quantum control before I joined it, but the more, like, since it was COVID, I was not traveling so much or not at all, and it was not so heavy work in my first
Mhm.
6 months of PhD, so I was mostly reading papers. And that is, I got really excited about this field because it's really like, it's not just theory, it's a theory plus engineering plus experiment. So it was like I had like this mixture of everything in this.
Which is why I would say it's scary. But yeah, okay. And that's great. And now you're continuing in the same group, having almost finished your PhD and
Yes.
started the postdoc as well.
Yes. For
Okay.
next few months till that project finishes, I will stay here. So, and then that I can also think about, because I wasn't very sure what I want to do after the PhD. So I want to stay in quantum, but which group, which country, what? So this all things will take some time to decide. So
Mhm.
by now I wanted to do something else. So
Mhm.
So maybe we'll add a few other things right now. We'll start playing the game, spice it up or slice it up. So
okay.
some of you may have already seen this from the previous episodes, but basically it's a game that's inspired from a podcast, hip hop podcast called Drink Champs. So essentially, uh, I'm going to ask you to choose between two things, and you can choose, the criteria that you choose on is subjective, even like how you interpret the question is subjective. So you can pick, option A or option B, or you could pick both or none. But if you pick both or none, then you got to eat something spicy. So for me today, I have like the same one as last time, the Gator Bite hot sauce from New Orleans. I'm going to have that with some chips. What do you guys have?
What do you have, Juhi?
So you have to believe me because it's in a bowl, so I don't have the bottle, but it's a chili. It's a chili sauce.
Oh, it's okay. It's a chili
You
sauce.
gonna
Yeah.
It's
eat it
the
straight up
Ching's
like
chili
that?
sauce.
Oh, yeah. And what is it? You're just going to spoon it in, or do you?
No, I have also the chips with it.
Okay,
Okay.
cool. Okay, cool. Yeah. Yeah, I'm also doing the same hot sauce I had last time.
Oh, the
I
Thai.
think I've just exclusively been using it only for this podcast.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I saw that podcast, and I know you don't really like spices, so I will try
No,
to make it easier for you.
No, let's go.
no.
You can feel free to pick both every time. This is gonna be fun. Okay. And of course, again, like, it's not rapid fire or anything. If you want to comment a little bit about what, why you
Sure.
chose one instead of and as well, totally up to you. Okay. So for the first one, Claude Shannon or Joseph Fourier?
Hmm. I don't think so. I can choose really.
Oh no,
There we go.
already.
Starting strong. All right.
That's hard to choose. Sorry, Priya, but that's hard to choose.
I mean, I guess
Here we
it
go.
depends on why aren't you able to choose Dojuhi? You have to tell us. Like,
I mean, I know a bit about both, but first of all, I'm not really an expert in those things. So it's me choosing one of those things would be unfair, in my opinion. So
okay, yeah.
Okay, the next one is the Bell test experiments or the double slit experiment.
hmm. I would go with the bell test experiment.
Okay,
It has become pretty exciting recently, to be honest.
that's true. Okay, the Schrödinger equation or the Dirac equation?
I mean, I work every day with Schrodinger equations, so for me it would be that always.
Nice.
Okay, easy, straight up, straight up. Okay, this is a little bit of a deep cut, and I actually don't know how much your work is exactly related to this. But would you choose a network analyzer or a spectrum analyzer?
I don't think so. I have much of an idea, so I think you will have
Okay,
to eat this.
it's a little bit it's a little bit more of an experimental sort. Okay, so none. Let's do it. Julie's like, look, whatever you use to measure the signals, that's your problem. Just give me the signals after you measure them.
Yeah, I don't care, whatever you use.
Nice. Okay, so C.V. Raman or Satyendranath Bose?
Certain they're not both.
Oh, how come?
That
You were
was
so
quick.
sure of it.
Because I'm really intrigued about the personality itself and like this whole Bose-Hubbard physics and I like this currently this all these new projects. All I use every day is this Bose model. So for me, it's like
Oh,
his name is like craved in my thesis on every pages.
Wow. Okay. Nice.
very cool. This may also be another like related to experiment question, but CPUs or FPGAs?
Uh, my groups are using CPUs, so that
Okay. There's no FPGA really in the experiments that you're working on, or?
I mean, there was one in one of the experiments, but that was like quite advanced, that lab, I would say. But in
Okay,
labs, in the basics labs that they're using, they still have the CPUs there.
nice. Okay. I think Priya, you might
Okay.
have a.
Yeah, there's just one last one because I just love asking everybody this question. But if you had to choose one qubit modality, and I'm not going to let you choose atoms. So
Oh my God.
yeah, has to be something else.
Okay.
Where's your money at?
I mean, for me, always, I mean, if you see the market, it's always superconducting qubit, but now it's become too boring for me in the end. I have seen so much superconducting qubit, it's too boring. So I have also very interesting about the photonic one. So I would go for photonic. I
Okay.
mean, not I don't know good about the market, but personally photonic.
Okay.
Interesting.
Okay.
You
Nice.
mean like in terms of like the, I mean, and again, I know we're putting you on the spot, but in terms of like the scalability or like you just like the beauty of the physics behind it, or what's the?
Yeah, just really like the physics behind it. I mean, also superconducting qubit is great, the physics and how it's getting scalable, but just what you can do with the photonics and all the presentations that I've seen from people and how with this speed that they are going and doing different physics on that, it's pretty exciting.
Nice.
Very.
Nice. I'm glad you were able to give us an answer. And I'm glad I don't have to look at this hot sauce for another month until we do the next episode. But thank you so much, Juhi. Yeah, that was nice.
Thank you. It was nice.
Yeah, I guess before we go, just one last question about if there's anything you'd like to share, because I think, in your career, you've experienced a lot of different things, especially with the lockdown thing that we just heard. So if you have any advice for people, professionals or students who are trying to get into the area of quantum technology, quantum computing.
So I think my one advice would be to do even before entering research, do a small research to enter, like similar what I did. So what you want to do, because there is really many sub branches of quantum computing that we don't even know. So if you're applying, you cannot just apply to quantum computing. So now there is quantum communication, there quantum control, there are different type of experiments. So you have to choose what interests you, and it could also depend on the place where you want to go and stuff. But yeah, do your own research. I mean, and you can then, the best way to do research is just asking the people through LinkedIn, because I get so many questions on LinkedIn. How do you think this position? So I try to answer all of them. So just contact people. They are there to help you, and try to contact your professors or professors abroad. They usually reply. So gain as much information as you can before choosing one particular field and sticking to it.
Mm-hmm.
That's really, really nice advice. I actually want to say, if you want to gain more information about the field that Juhi is doing, you can check out her Coffee O'Clock talk. It's called Coffee with Juhi, Quantum Optimal Control. I'll link it in the description as well. And thank you so much for joining us today. It was a real, real pleasure. The music you're hearing right now is by Himanshu Katara. And thank you both, and we will see you next time in the next episode.
Thank you so much, Juhi. Thanks, Rajiv. See you.
Thank you.
Guys are fighting.
Bye.
Bye.